Welcome to Home Cooked Stories, the podcast that brings flavor and inspiration to your ears. I'm your host, Julia Darling, a working mother with a family of 5 to feed and an insatiable appetite for all things food. Inspired by the life lessons from my mom, I believe food has profound links to our lives, from family recipes that leave a legacy, to the culinary journeys that define our travels, and the food that shapes our culture and lifestyle. Join me on this audio adventure as we dig into delicious topics, bringing more meaning and connectivity to our lives. And yes, we'll definitely work up an appetite. Remember, food isn't just what's on your plate. It helps tell the story of who you are. So wherever you are in this moment, pull up a seat and tune in, because life's too short for bland stories and boring meals. Welcome to Home Cooked Stories. As a society, our media habits are by and large obsessed with provocative headlines and lists. 5 best this, top 10 that, the one thing you should be doing according to a so-and-so expert. These headlines are effective, and they even work on me. I mean, just recently I've come across the New York Times 52 places to go this year. Let me book that flight. And Bon Appetit's list of the best new restaurants. When can I get that reservation? They're quick, they're consumable, and perfectly primed for our increasingly short attention spans. Like many of us that are juggling daily life, career, and even family obligations, we live among lists. I've got grocery lists, to-do lists, gift lists. I mean, in some respects, my mind is starting to operate within the realm of, if it's not on the list, it doesn't exist. One such list that's currently bookmarked on my web browser is Condé Nast Traveler's 40 Best Restaurants in Charleston, from raw bars to barbecue joints. And the author of this list is my guest today, Stephanie Burt. Stephanie's a full-time freelance writer and the host of my favorite food-related podcast, The Southern Fork. It's actually the first podcast I ever subscribed to. Her work has been featured in Food and Wine, Travel and Leisure, Zagat, and more. Stephanie has her pulse and her pen on the who's who of tastemakers across the modern American South and beyond, from farmers and chefs to winemakers and bakers. Stephanie's work has most certainly affected the way that I think about food. Using her wit, research, and warm Southern charm, Stephanie invites you to go deeper in understanding the stories beneath the headlines so that we can connect with the people behind the restaurants we travel for or connect to the foods we seek to add to our kitchen shelves. In today's episode, I'm turning the mic around and getting the story behind this storyteller. You'll hear what place is her creative muse, her favorite food cities, what makes a restaurant bring a tear to her eye, and how her career has influenced her kitchen and cooking at home. Definitely grab a pen and paper or open that notes app on your phone because you're going to want to make some notes on where to go for your next culinary adventure. More than anything, my hope in hearing from Stephanie today will make you more curious to look beneath the surface of that headline or list and learn more. I am so ready for this conversation and excited to share it with you guys today. So without further delay, Stephanie Burt, welcome to Home Cooked Stories. You know, having followed you for so many years, I think you have such a natural way of really leaning into storytelling and highlighting people's stories. But it is also that the work you do is so rooted in place and the people in the community that then make up that food scene and food culture. And so if we could kind of start a little bit back from the beginning, when you started the Southern Fork podcast, what was going on in your world? Where was it that you saw a need for something like this? Was it perhaps just more of a personal calling that this was something that you wanted to do?
It was more of a personal calling, I will tell you. You know, I came into the world of writing in magazines and newspapers in the 90s. And that was the last vestiges of the golden age of magazines and newspapers, really. And so my whole career, I've been kind of in this tectonic shift of media. And I have likened it to running from burning buildings. And but I don't really like that analogy now because I've really had to come to the feeling that I'm alive now. I feel very drawn, passionate, and pretty obsessive about this work covering this subject. And so I feel like that has to come for a reason. I had just been laid off from a job, which is very ubiquitous in our industry. And then I thought about all the interviews that I have done with chefs through the years. And I've said this many times. It is so wonderful to connect behind the scenes. Really, they are kitchen chats. I'm standing around prep tables, or I'm sitting at in a dark restaurant, and you can hear like the cook's
Yeah.
music in the background. So as I interview a chef, and so I love that kind of behind the scenes kind of theater feel. And I would really spend a lot of time with these culinary professionals. And then they'd maybe get 3 or 4 quotes in an article that I wrote. I felt like there were rubies left on the ground of these conversations. And so that's really the impetus of what really began the Southern Fork. I had never listened to a podcast before I did
Before
this.
you started one.
Yeah. Yes. And anyone who listens to the early episodes, that's pretty evident.
Did you, Stephanie? Because I know your craft really started out in writing, as you've mentioned. When it comes to food, were there early influencers for you in your life, kind of taking a look back and going, oh, that's where it started for me? Where did you kind of start to notice your earliest connections to food?
I grew up in a pretty traditional, very traditional household. And so food was at the center of that. And so it was always just kind of known that I would be cooking, but I am a science nerd. And I was a science nerd as a kid. My mom will tell the story that I would mix and pour, like with pots and pans and in the bathtub and everything else, like from 3 years old. So I just always wanted to kind of do this kind of alchemy or chemistry.
Mm.
And then in middle school, late elementary, middle school, I discovered PBS food, like many of the Generation X culinary professionals that I speak to. And that was Yan Can Cook. That was Julia Child in one of her shows. That was Jacques Pepin. And so I watched those shows like religiously. And I have always had wanderlust, and it was a way I could travel
Yes.
without leaving. I could somehow get an essence of a place if I watched this show. And, you know, that is pretty common. And so then as soon as I could, I started traveling, and I didn't ever expect to write about food or magazines. I was going to be a real writer, Julia.
Book author. Yes.
Yes. So I have a master's in American Lit, 20th century, and I taught American studies and poetry and literature, but mainly English composition 101. I loved all of that, but I didn't want to go to doctorate school. I wanted to live in the world. And so, really, what my work has been applying my intellectual, academic research methods
Mm.
to
How you
the
do this.
subject matter. There's only one way I do this.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of writing that is in my house that no one sees, because I need to kind of figure out what I feel about this restaurant or how
Yeah.
those connections happen for me. And I have to do it through writing. So
Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. Well, and when I listen to your show too, like one of the things I think about just having grown up here and lived in different cities and different regions across the American South is it's so nuanced. There's such a regional and a local flavor for each of the different sections of the South. How do you explain Southern food to people that maybe don't live in this area?
well, I like to differentiate between Southern food as a cuisine
Mm.
versus Southern food as a geographic area to capture in a net. So I think that lots of times people outside the South talk about Southern food, and what they really mean is soul food or country food. I also think that that immediately creates a flattening of the narrative. So what you're talking about is nuance, and really we're getting into some of the through lines of Southern food is the fact that there is so much connection to Africa. Those 16th and 17th century cooks from West Africa were the main cooks. And, applying these methods of deep frying and one pot cooking and all of that kind of stuff to the local foodstuffs. And so that's one of the through lines that if you just say Southern food or you just say soul food, you get lost in
Yes.
really the ingenuity that it took to take foodstuffs from America and apply African cooking methods to combine something for a multitude of palates. That was a culinary language created over hundreds of years and passed down through generations that crossed racial, class, and, culture lines. But I love that there's hidden pockets of diversity. I love that actually the modern South, which I'm interested in cataloging, the modern South is one of the most diverse areas in the country because it's one of the most fastest growing. It's
Yes.
not the fastest growing. So, you just get so much diversity of palate and how those are crossing over and the mix of different traditions and finding those traditions. I also think it's really important, and every time you fly anywhere
Mhm.
in the world, you need to remember that America is a continent, not just a country. So we think that we're all the same because we all watch the same TikTok videos and we all know, all these headlines, but you land and underneath that kind of thin veneer, you really find that nuance. So the key actually in connecting to place is to stand where you are and go a little deeper.
I think that's such a nice segue then in my mind to your time in Charleston. How long have you been in Charleston?
20 years
Really?
this year.
20 years. And so where do you get your inspiration and kind of what puts places on the map for you as you look at that city year over year?
Well, Charleston is my creative muse in a lot of ways. It teaches me things that I can apply to other places. And so it is, in a way, just worked because when I moved here to work for the Post and Courier, which is our newspaper, I was not in food, I was in lifestyle. I just happened to be here right when, like, before Fig was a restaurant.
Yes.
And so all of these people were doing this creative thing kind of around, and I had a pen and paper, and I could just go over and ask them a question. And talking to them about their excitement, their new stuff got me excited. And that community has just deepened over the years. And so I think what is so wonderful here is that it is a community of creative professionals that cross over into art and architecture and preservation and agriculture. And so a lot of those people, and it just leads you into this next thread, into this next thread. And I think that for me is what keeps me creatively interested because I want to be a part of that. I
Yeah.
want to come up with my own ideas, not just always be, explaining them, but my job is really, I would say, fueled by their passion.
Where are places for you in Charleston that you feel like locals understand and know them to be representative of the food scene there, but maybe tourists do not?
Well, I don't think there's much of that left.
Left
And
uncovered.
to be honest, because, I get often asked, but where do you eat? I eat at
Mm,
the places from Condé Nast Traveler. I mean, it's not a huge city. Well,
no.
I don't have like, you know, hidden alleys like in the back canals of Venice, It's this is the land. There's the peninsula where a lot of it's concentrated and there's y'all can walk the whole thing. You
We're
won't.
not going past that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think there's that. It's very much feels to me now like New Orleans, where
Mhm.
there are restaurants that are beloved by locals, but also by tourists, and that's okay. Just tourists are everywhere in New Orleans, right? You can go into all the different neighborhoods and the different areas, and you're going to find tourists because it's a culinary destination. And I
Mhm.
think the same is true for Charleston. What I have been excited about is the opportunity to watch the arc of Charleston.
Mm.
That first wave was Hominy Grill, slightly north of Broad, Peninsula Grill, just all when I arrived. And then we saw the big wave of Mike Latta at Fig, and people like Glenn Roberts became a household name more because of Anson Mills, because of Sean Brock. And so then you had Sean Brock and the rise of him, and then all of that spin off. And then, Sean left town and Hominy Grill closed and Frank Lee retired. And I thought maybe this is it. And
Smart ends.
it's not. There was a new wave, and now that's waves established by people like Chubby Fish and Chez New and Malagon and Zero George and a lot of these really great restaurants. And then, then we've just seen those restaurants spin off other people that are now doing their own thing. So I've watched these. I'm the auntie. I'm
Yes.
the auntie. I've watched these people grow up, cook, and do their thing, and then grow and grow and grow. And now they're doing more and they're showing who they are creatively. And it's all the pieces and parts of that. So I'm always excited about that. But I will tell you that this is an eating out as entertainment town, and chefs and other culinary professionals on their night off, they want to go to the other
To the
places.
other places.
Yeah.
What does it for you, Stephanie, then when you go to a restaurant? Are there qualities or things that you are looking for that for you personally go, this is a place I love, or I want to write more about this?
Oh,
What
yeah.
does it for you?
I mean, everyone who listens to this and knows my work will know that food writers are people first.
Yes.
And so they're people with their own personal palates. And we bring so much of ourselves to eating and living and working. Like the amazing critic Jonathan Gold, who passed on in LA, like he wrote about tacos and he championed the mom and pop, small, international diversity shops all around LA. So that was his platform. That was also his personal palette. So I have mine and I have my stuff that I love. So first and foremost, it's always the opinion. And so I can have places that I'm like, I get it. I respect it. I think this is great. And it is one of the best, but it doesn't make my heart sing. I am an emotional person. And so when I go into a restaurant for the first time, or even sometimes when I haven't been in for a while and things are hitting, I will tear up because it is a visceral reaction. So
Emotional.
that's always a sign that I'm like, okay, gonna be right about this. And so I think in Charleston, if we're speaking specifically about Charleston, it needs to be the food, the service,
Mhm.
and the setting.
Mhm.
And it is high theater. It is supposed to feel like a transportive experience, I think. I, of course, am going to lean more high end sometimes. I really think that standards matter, and chef owners often have a really good, or people that have a good investor that allows that creative kite string to go out to try things, that they don't hold it too tight to make it the restaurant where they want to take their buddies.
Yes.
I think that that really allows that creativity to shine. But I do think it's extremely difficult to hold the line. I really will say that Fig for years has held that line. And if you only eat one place, There's a bunch of a million places, but Fig was the first place just because I was a domestic writer. I hadn't been to Paris and all this to eat at the high-end restaurants.
Yeah.
Fig was the place where I was like, this service is something different. And it was a Charleston version of it, which makes it feel like, oh my God, I'm so glad you're here, buddy. Here's your drink that you didn't order. And here's that space that you like to sit in. And are you with so and so? Or give us just a minute because I'm not great at reservations. I think everyone's going to realize this. Go over there and stand.
Wait your turn.
We'll figure out why you're here and what we can do with you. So, a couple little things I always look for. I always sit at the bar.
You always sit at the bar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because
a couple of reasons.
Yes.
One, I often dine solo, and I like to see what other people are eating with an interested in ordering what they're interested in ordering without going around and looking at the tables, which is rude. The second reason is I want to look around.
Yes.
And I want to watch because I'm there to watch. I'm there to not to be like crazy about it, but I want to see what do the servers look like when they're coming out of the kitchen? Do they look frantic? Do they have to go around? Are they standing so long at the point of sale computers? You know, I want to see how that table of 10, you know, fared. So I'll tell you a really good example of this. This must have been 2017, 2018, probably. I went to Kindred in Davidson, North Carolina. And Kindred is one of the places that we have now where they hold everybody outside and they seat the entire restaurant at once. If anyone knows how that works as a chef, that's an insane kick your teeth in moment because all your ticket times are the same. And they had multiple big parties that day, like a woman's 80th birthday. And I was standing outside with all of them at 5. And so that's the way Chubby Fish is too. And a lot of other restaurants do that now as well. And so you're all in there together. And I thought, how is this going to go? Because I know listeners, a lot of times you'll see empty tables in a restaurant and you'll think, why aren't they seating me there? The host stand is giving the servers and the back of house staff time to catch up.
Okay, thank you for that tip because I have been that person to wonder. Yes.
Either they don't have the staff to cover that section, which can happen, but if it's a well-known restaurant, more than likely you're going, but I can see that table is empty right there. Right. Somebody is in the weeds somewhere.
Okay.
And I like, how in the world are they going to do this? And I watched, because I was sitting at the bar, I could watch and see generally what their ticket times were. Ticket times means how long from when they put in their order with the server to when they got their food. And they were running about the same as what a traditional restaurant would be. And I was just like, wow. But one of the first things they did was they put this milk bread in front of on every table.
Yes.
And now they have a whole bakery for that. But they put this milk bread. And so everyone is just immediately energetically calmed by the amazing carbs.
So true.
And everyone's just like, ooh, bread, and special bread. And it came in this like,
that tin and it's fluffy with a salt on the top. Yes.
So I watch, but I'm not also trying to get involved. I just kind of want to feel the vibe and I want to see, how do people feel? Do they look confused? Do they look happy? Do they, and the bar allows me to do that without being creepy or less creepy.
I love this so much. How do you reconcile what you're trying to achieve and then kind of this modern age of influencers going into restaurants and posting their 8-second Instagram or TikTok video of, here's the latest, coolest restaurants to go to? Or is it, this is just the time that we live in?
I do think that I'm playing golf. I am playing a solo game where I am wanting my experience and my work to be as pure to the stories as I can. So
Mhm.
I don't really care what influencers are doing. I'm not worried about it. I can influence people. People always say, well, you are an influencer. Sure. Okay, great. Have you ever seen me try to post a reel in the corner at a party? It takes me 25 minutes. But I do think that that is part of the age that we live in, and it is also part of the humanness that we are.
Mm.
And so what food and restaurants and the culinary profession really offer us is a place to meet where we are.
Mhm.
Maybe you just want to see and be seen because a lot of people treat eating at restaurants like a bingo card. Okay. So
Yes.
I have people, have you been to so and so? Have you been to so and so? And all of their friend group are trying to beat each other at bingo to go to all the cool new places. Now, there's a subset of that, which is, have you eaten all the off menu items? Bet you didn't know
Oh,
that one,
I
Julia.
did not.
There's a lot of secret menu items out there. So, did you get the burger at blah, 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 blah? It's only there on Wednesdays, or it's only, you have to ask for it, or, so that's a sub bingo card. And then there are people that only go out to eat because they're celebrating. Then there are people that only are looking for subsistence. So they're the avocado toast people that are eating, at the prepared salad place.
Yes.
I think that restaurants can have a space for all of those people.
Mhm.
And there is, at all of that, there's an invitation to go deeper. There's an invitation to ask. Just like there's an invitation to go to the Louvre and look at the Mona Lisa or stand with a crowd of hundreds and hold your phone up.
Yep. Yep.
Your choice is your choice. I've made my choice, but I also think that I do that because I'm really interested. This is my this is my jam.
One question outside of Charleston. What are some of your other favorite food cities that you like to go back to?
New Orleans, I love New
Yeah.
Orleans. New York, I mean,
So
I need to touch the touchstone of New York every so often. Birmingham, Alabama is so good right now, so good. Nashville is great. Nashville is so much in so many ways, artistically, culturally, is a little bit like it's a little bit like Charleston in the mountains.
Mhm.
Just, there's some connections there. I love eating in Texas. I think San Antonio is a great food city. It's so fun not to be offered pork belly and collards every day and to be offered breakfast tacos every day. I really
Yes. You
love
can't
that.
get that anywhere.
Exactly. So I love Texas. I've gone to Mexico 3 times in the last 18 months. And
Nice.
so that is a new area that's opening up for me for writing. And so there's so much. I just am creatively inspired by the cuisine and the people that cook the cuisine and the artistic, thoughtful nature of some of the really amazing Michelin starred chefs there. I just got to go in at the top.
Right.
So I'm now spoiled, but I would really like, I'd get on a plane today and just eat tonight in New Orleans and fly back if I could.
Yeah. Has there ever been a place that has surprised you?
Birmingham, when I first went, which was many years ago,
Yeah.
surprised me. I have had some amazing meals in Birmingham, and I was just there in September, and Rob McDaniel of Helen opened Bayonet, and it is one of the New York Times best 50 restaurants, and I got to go and sit and have a great meal at the Raw Bar at
Yeah.
Bayonet. I'm a I had a tear. So
Oh, it was that good. It moved you.
it
I
did.
love it. That's well, if I can shift and ask you a couple questions because I'm so curious. At home, how has your career or does it influence you and how you approach cooking, or is your kitchen
Absolutely.
And I
Absolutely.
imagine like all the time. Like, are you
Absolutely.
always playing in different cookbooks and different cuisines? And
Yes.
yes,
Yes. I really love French food.
me
I
too.
love French food. I think that's because of Jacques Pepin and Julia Child, and so I could do a lot of French-esque things, but with Southern ingredients in my house, which means roasted chicken.
I made his chicken jardiniere, yes, last night actually, which I
Yeah,
haven't made in
yeah.
years.
I do like to cook Indian food a lot, and I have developed, it takes a while to kind of get those spices. I mean, obviously, I'm Southern and I didn't have Indian food in my house growing up, but also other things. I used to have the cutest pig teapot, like tea kettle from
Yes,
Germany, where the steam shot out of the snout.
this no.
And I thought it was adorable, but it's not functional. I need an electric tea kettle. So I have a knife. I have the metallic knife thing. I've gotten rid of those frilly aprons even though I'm a
Yes.
vintage girl, I'm a Headley and Bennett person. I love those Headley and Bennett aprons. So I'm just going to give them a shout out. It is the best apron I've ever worn. I don't buy what Alton Brown calls unitaskers. So I'm not an Instapot person. I don't have a chopper. I have like, the mini food processor. I've got an immersion blender. Took me a long time
Yes,
to
I
get
do
through
too.
those.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do a lot with just really simple cookware. I got rid of a lot of my trashy cookware and utensils.
Have there been pieces of advice or philosophies that you have picked up on or heard from those that you've interviewed over the years that have really resonated with you?
So I think that, a good cookbook is invaluable. A tested cookbook is invaluable. I'm going to say this on every podcast. Tested recipes are invaluable. If you do not have somebody who has tested a recipe, and I have been one of those people who turned in recipes that weren't tested and were published. Just things are lost in translation, right? Recipe writing is an art. Find somebody whose recipe writing matches how you think in the kitchen
Mm.
and cook from them. You will learn how to cook better from reading their recipes and cooking with them. And so it could be Dory Greenspan, it could be Natalie Dupree, it could be, Cheryl Day, whomever, but find the person that works for you. Like do a recipe and like, this worked. Make another recipe by that person and then learn from them. That's a
Yes.
great way to do it.
I do you know who's I've kind of found myself reaching for more and more is Alice Waters cookbooks
Mhm.
because I love it's the way she writes it isn't like a recipe. It's like she's just walking you through it. And I love that a lot of times she doesn't even give you amounts. It's sprinkled with salt and pepper. I think she also is more educational
Mhm.
on cooking techniques and foundations versus just teaching you a particular recipe or cuisine. So I've liked hers a lot.
And we have a large class of people doing that now.
Mm.
From
Who would you recommend? Yeah.
I think if you like Alice Waters, Julia Turshen is a really great cookbook author to follow. I do think that it is important if you are making something, especially of another cuisine.
Mm.
Like, for instance, I love Vishweshbhat's cookbook, I Am From Here. He is an Indian chef. He is now relocated to DC, but he was in for years in Oxford, Mississippi. His recipes are, there's a lot of steps to this, but if I do it, I try to go by the letter
Mm-hmm.
and don't, because if you don't do it the one way, it's hard to substitute the next time to teach yourself.
Yes.
I've just seen a bunch of things like I make my own stock,
Yeah.
but I perfected how to make my own stock from watching chefs in the restaurant do it, but knowing that my family did it as a kid and going, there's a more efficient method than this. I don't want to this way. So a lot of times it's efficiency things.
Mm-hmm.
and technique things and using things, taking all those parsley stems and throwing them into that frozen bag of bones that I'm saving for the stock. I compost. I'm a huge composter. I love that stuff. So, that's fun too.
Oh my gosh. I could just pick your brain all day on efficiencies. Stephanie, if I could ask you a few more questions, maybe more rapid fire.
Absolutely. I'm not a rapid fire gal, as you can tell. Sorry about that.
No, I think it's great.
I force my guests into rapid fire, but I can.
I know you do. I want to know, who is your favorite person to go out to eat with?
Oh my God.
When you're not dining solo.
I don't know. It really depends on the restaurant. But I would say if I'm in Charleston, I eat a lot with Jai Jones, who's another writer. And I also enjoy eating with Parker Milner and Aaron Perkins, who are also writers. So it's fun to talk shop. It's fun to have another pair of eyes.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
If you had to pick one person to cook you a home-cooked meal,
oh my goodness,
dead or alive, whether you knew them or not, who would you want to make you a meal?
Oh my goodness. It's got to be Julia Child, right? I can't imagine that. Or I think maybe, it's got to be her.
It'd be her.
I think so.
And she's classic and iconic.
I think so. Or Jacques Pepin, who I've interviewed twice, but haven't been invited to dinner yet. So,
what's the food story that you want to tell that you've not had a chance to tell yet? Is there something kind of lurking in the back of your mind?
The short answer to that is yes. I always have something lurking in my mind, but I basically have pebbles in my pockets at all times. I'm really grateful to be invited in the background kitchens of America. And so people give me stories and I'm always trying to place them. So one of the biggest frustrations of this industry now is the collapse of the kinds of stories that we're telling. And I know that I have other stories to tell and there are places, but if anyone's listening, I have a story right now I've been pitching, and it is about beekeeping, a group of chef beekeepers at a resort in Mexico, and they are saving native bees from the Yucatan Peninsula jungle. And those are stingless bees, and they are tiny, and they make this beautiful honey that is lemony and thinner than our honey here.
Oh, how fascinating.
And so there's such a story that I want to tell there, and it's a big story. And I haven't been able to place exactly where it needs to be yet.
Well, I look forward to hearing it because I do, as I've said in the beginning, but I've followed you for several years, and the Southern Fork was, if not the first, one of the first and only podcasts that I started to follow. So I love what you do and how you do it, and you've been so gracious and kind to spend your time with me. So thank you so much for just saying yes and being open to chatting with me.
Of course. As you can tell, I hated it. And it was like pulling teeth to get me to answer a question.
You're like, thank God the time is up. No, I have to tell you, today is my birthday. So this was like a huge gift. Thank
Happy
you.
birthday.
It made my day. Thank you.
Such a wonderful gift for me. And, it was such a big thrill the first time somebody I didn't know listened to the podcast. And so I'm really glad that we met through my work.
Me too. I loved this conversation with Stephanie, and I hope you walked away with not only a list of places and restaurants you'd travel for, but a curiosity to learn more about them. Like Stephanie said, this is where the nuance and the better understanding of place happens. If you'd like to hear more from Stephanie, I've got lots of links for you in the show notes. Go follow the Southern Fork podcast and subscribe to her Substack. One of her recent episodes is a roundup of her favorite restaurants, culinary adventures, and travel experiences from 2025. And be sure to check out her upcoming book. It releases on February 10th. It's called South Carolina Cocktails, an elegant collection of over 100 recipes inspired by the Palmetto State. And if you're making a trip to Charleston in the near future, be sure to read that article on the 40 best restaurants in Charleston featured in Condé Nast Traveler. As always, share today's episode with someone you know, that friend who has Charleston on her bucket list, or someone who's looking for a new food podcast to dive into. I'm so glad you're here, and until we talk again next time, take care and eat well. Thank you all for listening to the episode today. If you find value in these stories, please share it with someone who would appreciate it too. A big part of why I wanted to start this podcast is to build a community of food lovers and home cooks alike. You taking less than a minute out of your day to share an episode, subscribe to the podcast, or leave a review is the greatest form of validation and means so much because it is helping us to build that community and connection with one another. Remember, a good story is meant to be shared. Until next time, eat well.